Welcome to the first episode of the Superheroes of the Pandemic, where we will spotlight key companies and organizations that made a difference during the novel challenges and circumstances of COVID-19. A platform that we have become intimately familiar with in the past year with the effects of the global pandemic is Zoom. With more and more companies turning to work from home structures and online education becoming the norm in academics, Zoom represents a major part of our contemporary reality. Launched in 2013, Zoom had 400,000 people sign up within the first month and a total of 200 million meeting minutes in the first year of operations. If you find these figures impressive, take a look at Zoom's most recent data after its growth surge during the pandemic. While Zoom was enjoying about 10 million daily participants in December 2019, this number surged to 300 million daily participants in 2020, manifesting a 2,900% growth. It has been named the fastest growing company in 2020. Joining us today is Abe Smith, acting as the head of international operations at Zoom Video Communications. Mr. Smith, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Jalen. It's really good to be here. And yes, 2020 was a very unusual year for everybody, Zoom included. Happy to talk a little bit about our experience and what we saw during the last 12 plus months.
We are so excited to have a conversation about all of these things today, as we have experienced something that shook societal functioning to its core in the past year. What the pandemic also did in the meantime was it gave certain organizations like Zoom the chance to shape and transform what the new normal of human functioning would be. Zoom has acted as a trendsetter, developing the new norm of human communication across the globe. If anything, I feel like we learned the significance of having an online voice, and the means to convey that online voice was for many people through Zoom. That is why I'm really excited to talk to you and hear your insights into this unique time period. Can you, first of all, comment on the symbolic meaning of Zoom in this very special time period, and how Zoom helped shape people's lives, acting as a trendsetter during the pandemic?
Sure, I'm happy to. So, again, it's great to be here and talk about this, because I think there's so many interesting things that have come out over the past year plus. Look, we set out in a mission in 2011 to launch a company that we thought was very special. So, more than 10 years, approximately 10 years ago, we had a singular focus, and that was to provide frictionless video-first communications for people around the world. And surprisingly, it was a very important need. People were connecting more and more through video. You could say that video was becoming the new voice. And then whether it was a consumer application that people were using daily as a millennial, for example, for how they were communicating with friends, all the way up to the boardroom, we were seeing trends well before the pandemic that spoke to the fact that people wanted to connect with visual images, and really good, clear visual images. So, when we founded the company, we were dead on focused with servicing large enterprises and organizations, small and mid-sized business, government entities, higher education, and that was our focus, really on a business-to-business level. I think what we couldn't have anticipated was the tremendous growth that took place in a very short time. So, we were really humbled by the fact that we had the chance to help and serve the world. And in one full swoop, a lot of people realized how impactful video could be at a personal level, whether that was connecting with friends and family, or celebrating a birthday party, or some ceremonial event, all the way up to very important business decisions and meetings that were taking place, or government communication, either to constituents or to one another, higher education, or primary and secondary schools, including in places like Turkey, where people relied on us for continuity in education. So, we were really, again, we were very humbled by the fact that we could participate and help. And the consumption increased dramatically, as you noted. In January of 2020, when the year started, we were averaging approximately 10 million daily meeting participants on both free and paid accounts. By March of 2020, that number had increased to over 200 million daily meeting participants. And then 30 days later, by April of 2020, that number had increased to more than 300 million. So if you put that into perspective, the start of the year was averaging at about 100 million meeting minutes per month. So approximately 1.2 billion meeting minutes per year. by the end of the calendar year, we were pacing at approximately more than 3 trillion meeting minutes per year. So, I mean, the consumption was just dramatic, and it really touched all aspects of life. But what it showed was that there was a way that we could stay connected, and that we could stay, visually aware with one another. And I think that helped in a lot of places, whether that was business, education, government, or personal connection.
So, as you'd mentioned, Zoom really did come to the rescue of many different stakeholders during the pandemic, businesses, schools, many other organizations. But I'm wondering, how did Zoom, out of all the other video communication platforms, come out the strongest? And what specific strategies did you employ to actually turn these challenging times into your advantage?
Well, I think there were a couple things that are core to the company that have been really part and parcel of Zoom ethos and our values since we launched the company in 2011. First of all, we set out to make high quality, simple to use video that just worked every time. So whether you're connecting in an area that had very low bandwidth or you were in a perfectly connected area, Zoom adapts to the device and is highly sensitive to things like packet loss, again, low or high bandwidth. So we made it simple for people to connect on video on any device, anywhere, anytime. And I think that simple resonance of a product that just worked beautifully, and frankly, a company that cared. We focused on servicing our clients, whether they were our free accounts or our largest clients around the world. We did our best to serve, and we always do. So, Zoom really does care as an organization. We saw that in a couple ways. We try to put our best foot forward all the time. And whether that was stepping up to the need in education, where we help people around the world, there were 25 countries where we provided the product for free. And there was more than 125,000 schools, millions of students that stayed connected because of Zoom. In Turkey, we worked with the Mother and Child Education Foundation, which was extremely beneficial for us and for everybody involved. We wanted people to stay connected and communicating during this time and ensure that children maintain their education, which is why people like the Ministry of Education in Turkey were so thoughtful in how they thought about maintaining that continuity. So, for us, it was around simplicity, it was around caring, it was around maintaining the incredible connectivity. So there are 19 data centers around the world that we operate to deliver the product. Just a phenomenal effort of our engineering team, which has honestly been in the category for a long time. So some of our team members have been in video for a long time, and it shows. The ability to deliver at scale, you could say, was tested and shown dramatically during the pandemic. And we're very pleased with the ability to continue to serve the product at a very high performant level with great quality and consistency, and in a way that shows our caring to the world, which is important for us as a company.
Definitely having that kind of a human factor did come out strong for many organizations that ended up succeeding in this very challenging time. You also stated in a previous interview that this growth that Zoom enjoyed was beyond anyone's expectations and dreams. How do you think you adapted successfully to this unprecedented circumstance?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to know, Jalen, a lot of us really saw the trends happening well before the pandemic. So, things like remote work were growing in popularity, the gig economy, if you will. The idea of distance learning was not a fad, it was a reality. People were connecting, whether that was college students or otherwise, around the world using online platforms for many years. And we also saw that, things like the consumer consumption for video was increasing every day. So, whether it was the millennial generation or younger that were on platforms ranging from Snapchat to Facebook to otherwise, video was a very consistent platform. So, the trends were showing themselves to be true. I don't think anybody could have imagined that the acceleration would have happened in one fell swoop. So, what was a surprise to us is that the world turned to video overnight, and that meant platforms like Zoom were really required, not just desired, they were required. So that's why you started to see the consumption levels that I talked about, the 300 million plus daily meeting participants on free and paid accounts, and then the more than 3 trillion meeting minutes that we served exiting 2020. I mean, the stats are really astonishing. But that was symbolic and representative of the fact that people needed an application and they needed to stay connected at a personal level, at a professional level, at an educational level. Now, for us, what was most important was to ensure that we were front and center. We worked very hard as a company. We're just over 4,000 employees right now, about 4,400 employees. And everybody was really on a mission. We're very, very proud of our Zoomies, as we like to call, our company members. Everybody realized how important it was to help. And, that for us was front and center. And I think that caring really makes a difference. Now, we think that a lot of the lessons learned during the pandemic will continue to evolve, probably more hybrid connection, if you will. People will meet one another face to face. They'll return to the office. They'll return to the school. But I think the way that they connect will be forever changed, which means now that they've learned that this medium exists and they understand how to use video as a prominent part of their life, they will. Now, that doesn't mean they'll use it exclusively, but it does mean that it'll become more and more important in the way that we teach, the way that we learn, the way that we communicate, the way that we work, the way that we react to one another. So I think that's an outgrowth of the pandemic that Zoom will see for years to come.
That's a great segue into my next question. I was wondering, you are in a position where you can observe global trends in different sectors and industries, as Zoom has been integrated in so many different parts of life and different industries that we can't even imagine, perhaps. And seeing all of these industries like from above, if you will, what do you see for the forthcoming future? Like, what are going to be the trends that we have come to accept as a part of normal life during the pandemic that is likely to stay and be permanent after the pandemic is over?
Well, I think there's some clear changes that are happening. In fact, we recently shared some insights from the Boston Consulting Group that ran a survey about this topic. And what you're seeing is the way people want to now, I guess you could say, evolve and work in the future. So, 2.5 to 3 times increase in people that said they want to work remotely. So, that's in general. So I think businesses, large and small, people are saying that, hey, we don't want to return to an office full time. We want to mitigate things like commute on a daily basis. We want to stay productive and still be balanced between home life and professional life. And we can do that, maybe spending 2 to 3 days in an office and 2 to 3 days at home, for example. On a healthcare level, there was a real dramatic increase in how we could use video for things like telemedicine or telehealth. So whether that's mental care or mental well-being, using things like video through Zoom and otherwise, it allowed people to connect in ways with their practitioner, with their medical facility. So, take for example my 80-year-old mother. Most of her medical meetings now are on Zoom. She seldomly travels into a doctor's office. She does most of those through her iPad at her house. And more and more, I think that kind of connection is becoming more popular and more evident in things like healthcare. We talked about education. I think education will definitely evolve. And at a trend level, I think you'll see things like the classroom becoming a studio, which means, through the commoditization of hardware, it's really easy to create a studio-like environment in your classroom, which does a couple of things. One, it does connect students remotely and in person, so that hybrid learning, if you will. It allows us to extend education, so the classroom really becomes available around the world, if you will, so students can connect from a remote village or they can connect from a different country. It also allows us to bring in educators that we might not have been able to enjoy in the past. So a little bit of the democratization of education can happen when an educator doesn't have to be in a physical country anymore. And through the use of the technology, what's so amazing, a meeting like this, I'm speaking to you in English, but it would be just as easy for us to use live translation in the platform. So we could easily use the platform today in Zoom to have a live translator come onto the session and translate the session into Turkish real time. And that's easy to do, and also to leverage things like transcription. So what that does is it allows us to remove some of the boundaries that existed using technology, and people can communicate and connect in ways that they haven't before. So we think those trends are going to evolve and frankly continue to progress in different ways. And we've been inspired to see different use cases that we just hadn't anticipated. So, for example, during the pandemic, at the the end of 2020, we announced the launch of our On Zoom platform, which is really designed to allow people to conduct events themselves and to either monetize those events or to use credits for those events. So think about the Pilates class that maybe I was running out of my house for ways to have fitness with colleagues and friends. I could make Abe's global Pilates class for anybody anywhere. And that gets, that creates a whole new world of opportunity. We saw large organizations like HSBC offer retail banking through Zoom, which meant that there could be a virtual connection to your wealth manager or to your mortgage advisor, et cetera, which means you don't have to come into a retail bank anymore. You can do that all virtually. Or, John Lewis in the United Kingdom that provided a retail shopping experience virtually. So what you're seeing is there's going to be all kinds of new business uses which can be run in concert with traditional uses. So whether I elect to come into a store or not, or do it virtually, or whether I elect to meet my retail banker at a bank location or via Zoom, the choices are now yours. And I think that expands the way of thinking and the opportunities that exist for people in the future.
What's really interesting here is a lot of people initially were seeing this kind of transition into virtual platforms as like kind of a new place and domain for us to carry out our daily functioning and normal lives as a negative thing. But now we're starting to see it more under a positive light with increased accessibility to education, as you were saying, new business frontiers, new frontiers for innovation. So it's actually really, really exciting, all these changes that are happening in the globe. And one thing I'm wondering about specifically in this area, as the world evolves, so does businesses. And I'm sure Zoom has changed so much in this challenging time and also gain new opportunities in the business domain. How would you differentiate Zoom before the pandemic and after the pandemic?
Well, I think, for us to provide that level of care that we want, we have to continue to accelerate and provide people around the world in time zone, in market, in language, so that we can provide the service and the connection that we aspire to provide globally. So, our headcount, our team members increased dramatically. At the beginning of 2020, I think we were roughly around 2,800 employees. Our Q4 announcement, we announced that we had just reached just above 4,400 employees. So, we're adding team members around the world in offices, or I guess you could say home offices in this case, around, globally. We added some key additional members to help us guide into a new world. So, Jason Lee is our new Chief Information Security Officer who came to us from Salesforce. That's a great example of somebody that's helping us steer into a new world of security. And, frankly, we've always placed security front and center, but we want to continue to make that a key part of our initiative. And, part of that also meant acquisition. In 2020, we acquired a company called Keybase, which helped us accelerate our efforts in security, specifically as it related to network security, so end-to-end security, which we were pleased to provide to our customers, both free and paid, at the end of 2020 as well. And that acquisition really helped accelerate that initiative. We were pleased to also welcome a Chief Diversity Officer to Zoom. For us, how we work with one another and how we work with the world is extremely important. Damien coming in as our Chief Diversity Officer was real important to our growth, and other functional areas like that. So, we continue to scale our executive team. We can continue to extend our organization to address the requirements and the needs of the world. And we do things like acquisition to help us, when we can't build. Though I will say it was amazing to note that we launched more than 300 unique features in 2020. So during a pandemic year, our innovation was still very consistent and very high. And 100 of those features were specific to security. So, we're determined to ensure that we're agile, that we continue to be creative in our approach to video. We want video to become the operating system of your life, whether that's for personal use or for professional use or educational use. And to do that means we need to be really focused on things like integration, dedicated to building unique applications, and then expanding our unified communications platform so that we allow people to connect and communicate in different ways. Escalate from perhaps a chat to a video call, or from a phone conversation to a video engagement. That should be seamless, and that's a key part of our evolving engineering team, which we also announced, key engineering centers in Bangalore and also in Singapore, in addition to Pennsylvania and Arizona in 2020. So it was a busy time. It will continue to be, we anticipate to be active and busy for the company going forward.
You point out something really interesting, 300 features in 1 year. That is really, really impressive. And that is probably driven by a lot of demand that is coming from a growing global audience. I want to kind of go back into that and maybe open up some new particular features that stand out. Obviously, security was a very important demand because of privacy concerns of a growing online population, and security breaches, data breaches, those were really major hot topics, and Zoom faced a lot of allegations and also adapted consequently. But I'm wondering, what were some other driving forces behind these kind of new features and changes that Zoom was pushed to adapt to in their product roadmap?
Sure. So, first of all, 90+% of what we develop and build is directly from the voice of the customer. So, for us, it's extremely important to listen to what our clients are saying, and then frankly, to hear what the world is telling us. We were very fortunate during 2020 and beyond, and frankly, through the course of Zoom, to get great feedback from professional consultants, from our customers, from a variety of people that just really cared about Zoom's success, and we listened. So yes, there was more than 300 features that we launched in 2020. There were quite a few that were dedicated to security, largely because the way people were using Zoom shifted. The shift to a real consumer use of Zoom meant that we had to adapt the product in ways that just made it easier. So for example, adding a single security button to the UI meant that with a single click, people could more easily take control of their meetings, whether that's locking the session or establishing a waiting room or doing things like setting a password. We wanted to make that easier and more front and center, and we did. Additionally, I think there was a lot of features that just made it more fun and exciting to use the product, whether that's filters or virtual backgrounds. Some of the backgrounds were animated. We had the ability to use PowerPoint or other presentation modes as the background, so sort of the weatherman approach, if you will, to how you could creatively present. So, we wanted to make the meetings engaging and frivolous as well. And, we also added incredible features around our core products and platforms. So, our Zoom Phone product is a good example of that. Today we provide the service natively in more than 44 countries and growing. Additionally, we reached the 1 million seat mark on our Zoom Phone product, which meant we continued to innovate on that platform. That was probably the fastest, I think it is the fastest growing cloud phone product ever in the history of, cloud PBX. So, we're real excited about the Zoom Phone product. We also saw great innovations in our marketplace. So what that meant is people could natively integrate Zoom with other applications. And that marketplace today has more than 1,000 integrations that makes it easier to use Zoom. So you might be in a product like Salesforce.com as a sales professional. With a simple click of the button, you can launch a Zoom meeting, and that's fully integrated. What that allows is for people to use video where they work and how they work, or how they serve, at a health level. So there's a variety of things that we can do more, and we continue to do around integrations. Our Zoom apps or our Zoom application program is just very exciting. It's a tighter use of Zoom with applications as part of the user experience. So I think that kind of innovation will show. We're also seeing that in room systems. We launched our Zoom for Home product, which meant meeting like this, I could be certainly using a better system like my home system if I walked upstairs, with some of the great devices that are affordable and easy to connect. That just creates more flexibility for the user. So there's a lot of innovation that happened, a lot more that will continue to happen.
We kind of talked about the global changes and how Zoom has been adapting their strategy globally, but I kind of want to dive more deeper into our region, which is Turkey and the greater MENA region. Does Zoom have any plans specifically concerning this area? And if so, what are some features that we should be looking out for?
Sure. So in general, we have increased our presence in MENA at large. So, with our headcount and growth in the Middle East, and frankly, our headcount and growth in Turkey itself. We added team member in Turkey to start. we see the Turkish market as extremely interesting, and we've been highly welcome. So Zoom in Turkey is one of the most popular and fastest growing applications in the country. We're seeing tremendous consumption both on free and paid users in Turkey. So we find the country fascinating. We want to continue to support the growth and the use in your country, as we have just about everywhere else around the world. So part of our initiative is to be where our customers are, and part of our initiative is to ensure that we can provide the service in language and with the right cultural sensitivity, regardless of where our clients exist. So we do our best to try to strive and increase on things like technical support and customer, billing support, and how we also provide customer success. All of that's important to Zoom. And Turkey for us is a fascinating market, and we've been very, very pleased and also very appreciative of the warm welcome we've had in the country, and that does not go unnoticed. So we want to stay close with our friends in Turkey.
That's great to hear. Well, I would really like to extend my thanks for joining us today and sharing your insights, Mr. Smith. It was a true pleasure to have you join Harvard Business Review Turkey for this interview, and we hope to follow the positive impact that Zoom continues to make in this world.
We really appreciate it. Look, thank you for the time. It's been an honor to help people with Zoom, and it's a real privilege. We're going to continue to do our best and provide a service that's just easy to use, that people enjoy, and that hopefully they feel the care from the company, because we do care about our friends around the world. And once again, we're thankful for the opportunity, and thank you for including us on the Harvard Business Review discussion today. It was a pleasure to be here.
You're welcome. It was great to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Zoom's head of international, Abe Smith, joined us today to share insights into how Zoom was managed, the challenging and unique circumstances of the pandemic, and turned it into an advantage for themselves. He also commented on his projections for the near future and whether certain trends we are experiencing in this new normal may be permanent. In the following episodes of the Heroes of the Pandemic, we will continue to survey impactful organizations that acted as trendsetters and helped yield positive change.